As the row about allegations of sleaze continue, the government is focusing its attention elsewhere. Last night, the new domestic violence bill was passed by Parliament, promising new protection for victims. Well, let's speak now to the Safeguarding Minister Victoria Atkins, who joins me this morning. Are you confident that the bill, having passed, will completely protect those in situations of domestic violence? We know that the numbers have risen through lockdown, and those people now coming out of lockdown, will they be 100% protected?
Well, this bill is a truly landmark bill. We know that there are 2.3 million adult victims of domestic abuse in this country, and of course children who live within abusive households as well. And this bill, first of all, puts a definition of domestic abuse and the many forms it can take, but which is important for commissioning of services at local level. But it does so much more than that. We are making real, meaningful changes to the ways in which family courts operate, because we know that abusers sadly can often try to use the family courts to continue the abuse. We're prohibiting non-fatal strangulation. We're prohibiting the use of threats to use revenge porn. We're making changes to the so-called rough sex defence, clarifying the law on that. So there's a huge amount of work that we're doing to help victims of domestic abuse, and also critically to stop perpetrators. We're seeing record levels of investment under this government in programmes to stop perpetrators, because we've got to stop this cycle of abuse, this perpetrators going from one relationship to another. And I think this is a real body of work that the bill provides the foundations for, but we're very conscious that the hard work starts now implementing it.
The bill, however, has received criticism of how it deals with stalking after the amendment requiring offenders to be monitored on a national register was dropped. Why would that be dropped? I mean, surely a register actually keeping tabs on offenders is going to help those that are being abused.
Well, in fairness, I think this bill has received support from across the political spectrum. I know you're focusing on that particular point, but genuinely, this has been a real, it's been Parliament at its best, I would say, because we've listened to ideas and suggestions, and where we've been able to, where we think they will work, we've absolutely listened and then acted. On this particular measure, we looked very, very carefully at it. It's very technical. It's about how we manage serial offenders and also the most violent and sexual offenders outside of a domestic abuse context, as well as within a domestic abuse context. But we've worked really closely with Baroness Rawle, who was the peer bringing this amendment forward. We have very much understood some of the concerns that have been raised. We're going to improve guidance. We're setting out a new framework. We're finding ways to address the concerns that have been raised in the House. But we weren't convinced that this particular amendment was the way to fix that. But of course, we will continue to keep this under review.
A national register is not a good idea. I mean, many lay people will think that it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so the problem with registers is that if someone, what we don't want is people falling between the gaps. So we have a really, really thorough system of managing serial offenders, both violent and sexual offenders, as I say, both in and out of a domestic context. 85,000 offenders are managed under this system called MAPA. What we want to do, they will be stalkers, but they will also be, sadly, sexual offenders. They will be very, very violent offenders. And what we're doing is looking at the system as a whole. We are very conscious that some parts of the system have outlived their usefulness. The Visor system is more than 20 years old. So next year we will be piloting a brand new digital forum, which we believe will really answer some of these concerns that have been raised. But the critical point about managing stalkers is about the decisions that are taken at local level to manage the risk of these people. And that's what we need to focus on, rather than, we think, setting up a new register.
Let's move on to the Prime Minister regarding allegations of corruption, and saying that there's nothing to see. When the Electoral Commissioner said it has reasonable grounds to launch an investigation, surely shouldn't the Prime Minister just actually say who paid for the refurbishments in the first instance, rather than allowing all these investigations to be launched?
Well, the Prime Minister has set out his case very clearly, actually, in the House of Commons on Wednesday. He was
quizzed. That direct question, though, has he? In the Commons, he didn't answer that direct question.
Well, he's answered the questions that were put to him, and I know that
he was asked yes or no. Did he pay for the refurbishments? And he didn't answer yes or no.
Well, as I say, the Prime Minister has answered those questions. As you know, I'm on here to talk about the domestic abuse bill, but the Prime Minister has answered the questions. He has very much given his answers to the House. And I do wonder, here I am today, we've got this amazing piece of legislation that will help, as I say, millions of people across the country. And it would be nice if just today we could focus on that.
Well, we have. That's how we started the interview. We have asked you about that. But also people are wanting to have answers to questions that the Prime Minister isn't simply answering.
Well, I don't accept that. As I say, he's answered questions in the House of Commons. We've had the announcement of Lord Geidt being appointed as the independent advisor, and of course, these reviews, these inquiries will take their path. But the Prime Minister has answered to the House. I don't really feel I can add to that.
But ultimately, as Downing Street has said, the Prime Minister will be the ultimate arbiter of any inquiry. That's like marking your own homework, isn't it?
Well, no, the way that we work our democratic system in this country is that the Prime Minister of the day wins a general election and he or she appoints the government and then he or she is answerable at the dispatch box in Parliament and, of course, in due course, at the ballot box to the electorate. And so he must have control over who is in his government. He's answerable for their actions. It seems to me the consequences of some of the suggestions that have been flung around in the press this week haven't really been thought through. I'm not sure anyone wants an unelected, unaccountable advisor, impeccable and with all of the integrity that Lord Geidt has. I'm not sure that is an addition to our constitution that we want to walk into without fully understanding the consequences.
We do know that Sir Alex Allen quit the role after the PM essentially overrode his findings regarding Priti Patel and bullying. How do we know that the Prime Minister is going to listen to any findings of any investigation? There's some 9 investigations at the moment.
Well, first and foremost, this process has been transparent. And I think, in terms of the previous investigation, that has been settled. The Home Secretary apologised on national television for the findings of that review. And so, again, I'm not sure I can add anything more to what is
ignored it. The Prime Minister ignored it.
Well, namely that the Prime Minister has to have the control of the government, has to have the confidence that his ministers are the ministers he wants to exercise the incredible responsibilities that ministers have in government. And that seems to me that has always been the case and must continue to be the case.
Minister, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning. Thank you.